It's good that I've got you both here this week because last week the football world was rocked with the revelation that players meet other coaches and agents to talk about playing elsewhere during the season, which, you know, I never knew happened until last week, and I was shocked. And I'll remember where I was when I found out the news that Oscar Allen had a coffee with Sam Mitchell. But what I'd love to ask you two, because this obviously happened with you blokes throughout your respective careers, because you both played for different clubs. Firstly, get your take on that situation. And secondly, I want the stories of when other clubs tried to lure you during your careers.
Before Lynch goes, I'd just say, if you haven't heard it, Chris Scott's press conference after the game hit the nail on the head.
Oh, yes, I did see that. It was brilliant.
He spoke about it for 4 minutes. He spoke perfectly, and anyone that is questioning players meeting with opposition coaches and teams, go and watch that 4 minutes.
Give us the 15-second
Well,
version.
effectively he's saying everyone in the competition, Oscar Allen's out, they would want to speak to him. Yeah. He said, if I was Sam Mitchell, if I was an ex-teammate of Oscar Allen's and an ex-coach of him, I'm going to catch up with him. Yeah. He goes, I'm not going to catch up with him because I don't know him personally at this point in the year, but if I'm over there and it falls that way, I'd meet with him. He goes, the fact that we think that it's not happening, he goes, you've got to be a bit more discreet about it. But he said, how do you know what they talked about it there? At that coffee, no one knows. They caught up, but they could have caught up as mates. How do you?
Oh, give us a spell.
I know what he's saying, but then he's saying, he also said that, and no one got it in the room. I think it went over all the media's head. He goes, his preference is that they can talk to any player in the competition and no one can speak to his players.
Yeah.
But he just said that Ross Lyon caught up with Tyson Stengel the year before. It's just accepted now that it happens, and
absolutely it is.
You got to be a little bit more discreet about it, and I think you can be discreet about it. But that 4 minutes is outstanding.
Okay, well, he does nail it so often.
Yeah.
And he,
I'll tell you what wasn't outstanding
exceedingly
was
well.
Oscar Allen doing a forced apology press conference. That was utterly embarrassing. But in saying that, maybe if they have a coffee, don't sit out at the front table of the cafe, go somewhere very private.
So is that what happened?
Yeah, apparently it was a very popular
coffee club, I think.
Yeah, it was like, that was a rookie error.
And it's not an error for Hawthorn or Sam Mitchell.
No, not at all.
It's for Oscar Allen. The pressure that comes on,
surely,
especially after you've played in a derby.
Surely there would have been a friend's house or something. But anyway, Lynchy, you'll probably be doing that, or should Tasmania Football Club be happening?
Well, we've just cancelled all our meetings at coffee shops over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, that won't be happening.
Thought we'd better lay low.
No cafe meetings. But as I say, let's dial it back. I want to know about when you met with opposition clubs when you were playing, about moving on. So, Lynchy, you're in a very different era.
Yeah.
30-odd years ago, and about 1993, you were very hot property.
Yeah.
Who tried to lure you, and what did they do?
I'll tell you, I met with, now I think it was 93, it might have been 92.
Okay.
And again, with these times, you had no real intention of going anywhere until a ridiculous offer come through. I met with Ken Sheldon at St Kilda, with Peter Hudson, who was the sort of footy manager down there at the time.
Where and how?
At Ken's house down Bayside. So, yeah, had a chat with them. Met with, this was definitely 93 when there was talk of possibly a move because Fitzroy was struggling. I met with Ron Barassi at, I reckon, the Southern Cross Hotel in Melbourne. And, I don't know, was it Ron Barassi and Ron Joseph, I think.
Okay.
So met with them.
And they were at the Swans at the time?
Yep. Yeah, so there was talk about going to the Swans because the priority picks that year, Brisbane Bears and Sydney Swans had priority picks where they actually could sign someone outside of the draft.
Okay.
So it was sort of almost, if I'm remotely thinking of leaving, I've got to chat to them. So I spoke with them.
What did they offer?
I got no idea. I don't reckon they got to the offer stage.
Did you ever get wined and dined somewhere, or did you ever like take advantage of, we'll take you to a nice restaurant or something? Did you ever get like proper wooed?
Yeah, I was, well, and again, I wasn't hiding this because start with Scott Clayton, who was the recruiting manager, list manager, whatever you call it, of the Brisbane Bears. He took me for a game of golf down at somewhere like Victoria Golf Club or something like that. But I took Roosie as well, who was my captain. Yeah. Because we'd both played with Scotty. So that was it was out there. But then Brisbane brought me up to have a look at the club, and that sort of stuff at some stage. I can't remember exactly what time of year that was. It was most probably it was at the end of the season. But yeah, wined and dined.
Were brown paper bags ever involved?
No, there's no.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Well,
yeah, you're disappointed that no one got the suitcase or the brown paper bag out for
I
you?
probably didn't get to the stage.
Oh,
Actually,
okay.
I spoke to. Now I can't remember exactly how. Wasn't John L. Ian Collins contacted me,
And he was at Carlton?
Carlton.
And you'd expect, well, if Carlton's giving you a call in the early 90s, it's like, where's the cash?
So Ian Collins called me and said to continue this discussion. It was always going to be hard. Fitzroy said, we're not trading you under any circumstances. And so that meant I only could go to Brisbane or Sydney. And I said that to Carlton, so they won't trade me, so no chance. And Ian Collins told me, go with this particular manager and we'll make it work. I said, nah, not interested.
And then you got the Godfather offer at the Brisbane Bears.
Yeah, that was it.
Rock, yours is more recent and more in modern times and during the time of free agency. And you were looking for a trade in. There was rumours about you being traded at least for your last couple of years at the Brisbane Lions. Tell us about who you met with, how you were wooed, what were the options on the table?
So 2013 was the first time that I experienced it. Vossi had been sacked and Paul Roos and Melbourne met with them down in Melbourne at the end of the season. Went and did a tour of the facility in their club at the MCG there. So that one, I was pretty close because I was, a bit all over the shop.
When they give you a tour of those facilities, do they do it incognito or it's just like, here's Tom Rockliff, he's just having a look?
I think they had offices because Melbourne, they were away at that time.
Right.
They were still they just transitioned down wherever they went.
Casey?
Down at Casey Field. So they were coming back. So I went to the MCG and they have all their offices and stuff set up there. Offered a leadership role, not captain or anything like that, but to go there. And then I felt like I had to stay. I wanted to stay at Brisbane throughout my whole career, but Leopard took over and probably should have won the Brownlow in 13, Lynchy, so I probably could have got the good offer there from the Ds. But yeah, it was touch and go, and Melbourne were on the rise, and Roosie was impressive, but yeah, decided to stay. 2016, when Leopard got sacked, there was a few murmurs of potentially moving. Nothing sort of ever eventuated that year, but maybe the Crows and Collingwood a little bit, but then 2017 was obviously the year where it became quite clear that Brisbane didn't want me to stay. They would shift in a different direction, which was fine. The Blues, Port Adelaide, Cats and Hawks. So Hawthorn sent up their head recruiter who would have been then, came to my house in about round 6. So we sat out on the back deck, had a couple of hour meeting, and then Clarko called during the week. We had a phone call for 45 to an hour.
Mm-hmm. What do those phone calls consist of?
Oh, they just tell you about the club, where they see you at, where they see their club, how you can benefit them, what they want to, the direction that they're heading. So it's pretty impressive. Geelong I went to Scotty's apartment in the Docklands. Uh-huh. So I did a footy show, I reckon, at Channel 7 or 9, and then went over there, met with them. So they had all their recruiting team.
Did you get
CEO, Steve Hocking.
Or
no, there was nothing like that. They said, look, you're out of contract, restricted free agent. They're not doing their job if they don't speak to me. And it sort of never really got anywhere, because their priority that year was getting Gaz home, Gary Ablett. So they said, look, we probably can't get you both in, but we're just in case something falls through. But Gaz was a priority, got him home. And then it turned to the Blues and Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide bye week. So around 10 or 11, so the conversations had started early in the year. Around 10 or 11, we had the bye, went up to Noosa with my partner at the time, drove back early Sunday morning, jumped on a Qantas flight, so I didn't get identified, and went to Chris Davies' house, the footy manager. Met with Ken for about an hour, just had conversations. They presented what they believed, presented really well, got on the plane, came home, and then Carlton, end of season, it sort of ramped up from there. went down Lygon Street, up the top of a restaurant. They had all their head honchos there, Sticks and everyone. They rolled everyone out.
It sounds like a scene out of The Godfather.
Oh, geez,
Go and do full medicals and stuff like that. And then Brendan Bolton, he came up, him and Sticks, Silvani, I reckon, actually in an apartment at Broadbeach, and had another conversation. And then it was pretty much up to me which way we went.
How good's your poker face when you're doing those meetings when you're still at Brisbane? How do you... Well, were you honest that you had those meetings, or do you just...
Well,
how do you...
They were pretty honest with me. I just said to Fags, look, like, my preference is to stay. But so I signed a contract in 2013 or start of 2014 for an extension. It was All-Australian, won at a club best and fairest, club captain for 2 of those years, and offered a fair pay cut, almost half what I was on. So it was pretty clear that they didn't want to keep me when the salary cap's going up. So I just said to Fags, look, I've got to explore, and he was open to that. I have mutual respect for them, and they understand the way it operates. I mean, they're not having conversations with other players in the competition. So I think everyone accepts it now that it happens. It's just how you perform. And that year, I think I played, particularly in the first half of the year at Brisbane, was probably some of the best footy I've ever played in 17, then popped my shoulder out, and I played with a dislocated shoulder that just kept popping in and out for the rest of the year. So
We've, in the Rugby League, a couple of weeks ago, and he even called into the NRL podcast, Daly Cherry Evans announced that he said he's not playing at Manly for the rest of the season. He's a Manly icon, captain of the club and whatnot. And it's very common in Rugby League that players go, this is my last season, I play for the Broncos, but next year I'm playing for Souths, so to speak. Do we need to do that in AFL, or is the current system...
no.
We couldn't cope with it.
Nah, and I think
Rugby League,
they're moving away from it.
they want to shift to us as well.
So I think we appreciate and respect that you've got to do your due diligence if you're looking at moving, but I don't think we need to be playing while contracted with someone else.
I think
didn't Daly Cherry Evans sign years ago with the Gold Coast?
Yeah, and reneged.
Yeah. So he'd actually done it before.
Yeah. He double-crossed.
I think what's happened there is he was open to stay at Manly. They didn't offer him anything, and then he's decided to go. So that's a different topic. But I think in the AFL, we accept now that if you're out of contract or you're in contract with a year to go, but your free agency's sort of thereabouts, I think you can expect most people to be having those conversations, whether it happens with the manager, with the club. I think
At some stage, it's got to get to the player.
it eventually gets to the player meeting with the club if he's interested, or again, you can jack your price up as well if you want.
Yeah, well, that's what they do half the time, is no intention of going, but get the price up. I met with Peter Hudson when he was the CEO at Hawthorn. Now, I met with Peter because
So this is going back to, is this when you're at Fitzroy?
Yeah.
Yep.
Because he's a friend and he was my first coach at Hobart. So I used to see a lot of Pete. But then he sort of mentioned, we'd like to put something to you. And so I met him at Hawthorn at Glenferrie Oval. Again, more social than anything else, but he wanted to put an offer to me. And I said, well, you better have a look at this offer I just got from the Brisbane Bears first. And he said, oh, right. Enjoy Brisbane.
Was that Brisbane Bears contract just crossed out Jason Dunstall and replaced with your
Yeah,
name?
no. Jace got offered first, and Jace reckons, his offer was a lot more than mine, which would be understandable too, because he's absolute superstar. But so
And a Queenslander.
I got his contract. Yeah,
Very good.
Dregs.
And you're taking notes from all this situation when you try lure players to Tasmania. You probably got Matt Rowell, Seth Campbell. They're definitely on your list. Do you want to?
No, they're all on the list.
Everyone's on their list.
Our priority is to find the best person to pick those players.
And maybe a ground to play.
But to
out
take
as
people
well.
inside that as well, you go to recruiting offices now, and they'll have nearly every player in the competition on the board, on a whiteboard, and they'll have which ones are available, which ones are their targets, and
it's a
break
buyer's
it down.
market.
It's
Well,
an
they have the
incredible
matrix.
process if you can ever get vision of it. I'm sure most clubs probably won't do that, but I'd imagine
It's worth a documentary.
Tasmania would have every player in the competition that have 16, 17-year-olds and starting to build their list the way they want.
Yeah, so it started with the under 15 schoolboys and schoolgirls last year.
Yeah.
So that list, we've got all the data on those players. They roll into the under 16s now, but also the current under 17s. There's we're looking at those as well. Some that don't get drafted, some that you'll be just tracking for future years. It is fascinating. You watch the the list build discussions, and you've got your team, what they're on when they come out of contract, and so you're projecting ahead. You know, Luke Hodge playing halfback for the Brisbane Lions. So you're thinking, well, he's going to pop off next year, so we've got to find a halfback flanker with leg speed. So then you have a look over to free agents, restricted free agents who can come through, who's in the draft. So it's a fascinating matrix.
It's an intriguing, and that's why player movement, it is an intriguing thing and people just cannot get enough of.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website